So in continuation of the concept of cost and cost curves, today we shall discuss about short-run courses. So there are two types of courses when it comes to when we consider the time period. So there are short-run course, and then after this we shall discuss long-run course. So again, in short-run cost there are total cost, fixed cost, and then variable cost, which means even in short-run cost we will have total short-run cost, fixed short-run cost, and then variable short-run costs. So we shall discuss them one by one. What is a fixed cost or total fixed cost? What is variable cost or total variable cost? And then what is total cost, represented by TC? So we have explained the difference between fixed factors and the variable factors. And also we have observed the difference between short run and long run. So fixed factors means which we cannot change in the short run. Factors which we are not able to change in the short run during a short period of time. Variable factors, which mean those factors of production which we can change even in the short period of time. And then in relation to that, we have discussed short run and then long run. Short run means we can change the factors of production which is of variable factors. We cannot change the fixed factors in short run. And in the long run, every factors of production, even the fixed factors of production, can be changed or can be varied. So after explaining the differences between all those, we are in a position to distinguish between fixed cost and the variable cost. And when we count together fixed cost and variable cost, we are getting what is called total cost of a business. So what is given according to the definition fixed cost? So fixed costs are those which are incurred in hiring the fixed factors of production whose amount cannot be altered or changed in the short run. So what is fixed cost? Fixed cost is nothing but the cost which is incurred, which is involved in hiring or employing fixed factors of production whose amount cannot be altered in the short run. So that is fixed cost. It is nothing but the cost that you gave or that you incurred or that you pay in employing those fixed factors of production whose amount cannot be changed in the short run. Again, fixed costs are those which are independent of output. So independent of output. Fixed cost is independent of output. That is, they do not change with change in output. So fixed costs will not change according to the change in output. So they are independent of output. They do not depend on output. They remain fixed. Whether output is increasing or whether output is decreasing, they remain the same. It is independent of output. Again, fixed costs are also known as overhead costs. So overhead costs includes such as contractual rent, insurance fee, property tax, and then maintenance costs, interest on capital investment, minimum administrative expenses such as giving salary to the managers and then giving wages to the watchmen, etc. So these are all fixed costs which remain constant or fixed with the change in output. Even if there is a fluctuation, there is a change, there is an increase, decrease in the output, this fixed cost will remain constant because this is the cost incurred in hiring these fixed factors of production which remain constant and they cannot change in the short run. So that is all about fixed cost. What about variable costs? Variable costs on the other hand are those costs which are incurred on the employment of the variable factors of production. So it is no longer hiring fee for fixed factors, but it is a payment, it is a cost incurred when employing variable factors of production who are capable of changing, whose amount can be changed in the short run. So these factors of production, variable factors, they are changeable, they can be altered in the short run. So a cost incurred in employing those factors of production, which is variable factors of production, which are capable of changing, which can be altered in the short run, is called variable cost. So that is all about variable cost. So we have discussed that these fixed costs, they do not change or they are independent of output, but in this variable cost, they are dependent on the cost. So the variable cost change with changes in output in the short run. That is, they increase or decrease when output rises or falls. So according to the output, this variable cost changes. If output rises, then variable costs also increases. If output falls, then variable costs, if output falls, variable costs also decreases. So it is changing according to the output. It is dependent on the level of output that is produced. So what are the types of costs that is included in variable costs? They are the wages that is paid to the laborers, and then price of the raw materials, and then use of fuel, petroleum, all those things, and also power, and then transporting costs. So let us take this wages for the laborers. So if you're employing more laborers to produce more output, then you have to pay more wages. So when there is an increase in output, you are paying more. So we have just said that this variable cost is dependent on the level of output. That is why. And again, when you employ more, when you use more raw materials to produce more or extra unit of output, you have to pay more for the prices of raw materials. So depending on the level of output, you have to pay more when it comes to variable cost. Unlike fixed cost, which is already fixed, whether the level of output is increased or decreased. So that is fixed cost and the variable cost. What is total cost? So when we put together both fixed cost and variable cost, what we obtain is total cost. So total cost is nothing but sum of its total variable cost and total fixed cost. So it can be given total cost equals total fixed cost plus total variable cost. That is total cost. When we add up this fixed cost and variable cost, we get total cost. So this table 1, that will help us to understand more clearly what is fixed cost, total variable cost, or total cost. So number of units is given here. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So don't get mistaken, this is column. So number of units of output is given here. It is ranging from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. So from 0 to 8 units. And total fixed cost is given here. So you will notice that total fixed cost is 50 throughout the number of unit of outputs that is produced. So it is fixed at 50. Regardless of the increase in output, the total fixed cost is remaining constant, because as we have said that it is independent of the level of output. So it is remaining constant. What about total variable cost? So total variable cost, as you can see, it varies. It starts from 0 to 20, 20 to 35, and at 8 unit of output, total variable cost is 284. So it is increasing as output is increasing. And when you look backward, as output decreases from 876 to 0, this total variable cost is also decreasing. So it falls as output is decreasing. So it is dependent on level of output. And total cost is nothing but when we add up this total fixed cost and total variable cost, what we get is total cost. So we add 50 plus 20, what we get is 70, and then 50 plus 35, what we get is 85, and 50 plus 284 is 334 costs. So that is total cost when we add up both total fixed cost and total variable cost. So total fixed cost, total variable cost, total cost, they are all depicted in this figure 1. So this diagram will show all the different types of costs that we have just discussed. So this diagram, so whenever you write an answer with a diagram, first you have to give the measurements. So on the x-axis we are measuring output, and on the y-axis you are measuring cost, and 0 is the origin. So as you can see, total fixed cost remain constant. So we have discussed that this total fixed cost, they remain constant regardless of the changes in output. So whether the output increases or whether output decreases, this total fixed cost remains constant. That is why this total fixed cost curve is a straight line, horizontal or parallel to the x-axis. So this parallel or the total fixed cost remaining constant or horizontally parallel to x-axis is nothing but because of the constant total fixed cost regardless of the changes in output. So that is total fixed cost. And then it will be seen from this figure that the total fixed cost starts from point on the y-axis. So it is starting from the y-axis, as you can see from here. So what does it mean starting from y-axis? So y-axis meaning that the total fixed cost will be incurred even if the output is 0. So output is 0 here at this point. So total fixed cost starting at y-axis would mean even if output is 0, this total fixed cost have to be incurred or have to be given regardless of the level of output. Even when the output is 0, you have to pay this total fixed cost. It has to be incurred. That is the meaning of total fixed cost starting from y-axis. So this is the y-axis. And on the other hand, what about the total variable costs? So the total variable cost is rising upward. So it is rising upward. It rises upward, showing that as the output increases, the variable costs or total variable costs also increases. And again, you will see that this TVC, total variable costs, also starts from the origin O, which shows that when output is 0, total variable cost is 0, unlike the total fixed cost. So here I have explained that even if the output is 0, you have to pay total fixed cost. But when it comes to total variable cost, it is starting from origin O, which means that when output is 0, total fixed cost is also 0, unlike the total fixed cost. Again, what about the total cost? So it should be noted that this total cost is function of total output. Function of total output would mean the greater the output, and then the greater will be the total cost. So in symbols we can write that total cost equals to, it is function of Q. So this equation says nothing but depending upon the level of output, total cost also incurred. When there is an increase in output, then total cost rises. When there is a decrease in the output, then total cost falls. So total cost is the function of output. And then total cost, this TC is obtained, by adding up this vertical total fixed cost and total variable cost curve. So as we have explained, this total cost is obtained by adding these two. So that is how we obtain the total costs. So this curve TC is obtained by adding this straight horizontal total fixed cost and then total variable fixed cost. So an important thing to note is that the vertical distance between TVC curve and TC curve. So the vertical distance, so we are talking about this gap, TVC and TC, the distance between these two will be the same throughout. So it will be the same throughout. Why? Because the vertical distance between the TVC and TC curves represents the amount of total fixed cost which remain unchanged as output is increased in the short run. So what is the meaning of constancy of the gap between total cost and total variable cost? It is nothing, but it is because of the, this, constant distance, same, the distance. So the distance between TC and TVC, constancy, or the distance is same, is representing that the amount of total fixed cost. So the amount of total fixed cost which remains unchanged, it is remaining unchanged as output is increased in the short run. So it is indicating that total fixed costs remain unchanged even if output has increases. It should be noted that the vertical distance between total cost curve and the total fixed curve represents the amount of total variable cost which increase with the increase in output. So you will again see that the distance between total cost and total fixed cost is increasing as output increases. So that is the gap. But okay, before coming to that, I'll explain this. So the gap between TC and TFC is increasing, which means as output increases. So this gap is representing the total variable factors which increases due to the increases in output. So this gap is representing the amount of total variable cost which increase with the increases in output. So this gap is increasing as we increase the level of output. But we have just discussed that the distance between this TC and total variable cost is constant throughout, meaning that it is representing the total fixed cost which remains unchanged even if output level has increases. And the vertical distance between TC and TFC is representing the total variable costs which increase due to the increase in output. So that is why the total cost curve, that is TC, is exactly the same as that of the total variable cost. So the shape of TC is same with TVC because the same vertical distance always separates the two curves. So this distance is always constant, which is separating both this cost curve. So that is the concept of short run cost, total fixed cost, and total variable cost.